Russia's BMD-4M airborne combat vehicle has encountered significant challenges on the battlefield in Ukraine. Its thin armor has proven inadequate against modern threats like drones and anti-tank missiles. By early 2025, at least 167 of these vehicles had been lost. Despite this, China has moved forward with an order of 37 BMD-4Ms totaling 584 million US dollars. The deal includes not just the vehicles, but a complete package of Russian airborne operational systems, training, parachutes, instructors, and maintenance support. This raises a pressing question. Why would China purchase equipment that has already been shown to have serious flaws in combat? Number one, the truth behind the deal, a package, not just vehicles. The 37 BMD-4M vehicles are part of a larger Russian airborne combat solution. Russia is selling not just the vehicles, but also their tactical usage, training methods, and logistics support all bundled together. This strategy raises the total price and ensures that China remains dependent on Russia for future parts, updates, and training. China isn't simply buying vehicles, they're buying an entire system. For some in China's military-industrial sector, this comprehensive import is a dream come true. Imagine acquiring a fully established airborne system that can be immediately reported as successfully imported and mastered advanced airborne assault capabilities. Whether the system is outdated or impractical is irrelevant. What matters is that it allows for reports to be written, projects to be launched, funding to be approved, and results to be showcased. Even if the equipment doesn't work or gets damaged, it can simply be labeled as research cost or experimental expenses, terms that are easily accepted within the system. Moreover, this military purchase holds political weight. Internationally, it symbolizes the unbreakable bond between China and Russia. Domestically, it projects an image of China modernizing its military. It's a win-win, both financially and politically. More importantly, this military purchase carries political significance. Internationally, it reinforces the image of an unbreakable bond between China and Russia. Domestically, it presents the image of China advancing in modern warfare. It's a win-win both in terms of financial and political gains. From the beginning, China may not have expected these vehicles to see actual combat. The real purpose behind this purchase is likely research and learning. And how do they do that? The answer is by studying the vehicle's materials, structure, fire control system, and even its weaknesses. By analyzing Russia's design philosophy and comparing it with China's own, China could identify useful features and areas to avoid. The boldest approach could involve using Chinese drones and anti-tank missiles to test the vehicle's performance. This is all about gathering data, running evaluations, and identifying directions for the next generation of airborne vehicles. Beyond that, China likely wants to learn the entire airborne operation process from troop assembly, boarding, airdrops to ground assaults. While this process has already been proven ineffective in Ukraine, failure itself can be an invaluable lesson. Having a full book of mistakes to analyze is much more efficient than trying to figure it all out on your own. In essence, China is paying for experience, learning from others' failures to pave the way for their own success. It sounds logical and makes sense on paper, but there's a major issue. Even if this is for research, if these vehicles are ever deployed in real combat, especially in the Taiwan Strait, that's far from what's written in the textbooks. First, airborne vehicles need to be light enough to be dropped by parachute. This means the armor must be thin, which leaves them vulnerable to drones and anti-tank missiles. Essentially, they're exposed. If China tries to reinforce the armor, the vehicle will be too heavy to drop. Second, airborne operations depend on one key factor, air superiority, along with control over ground air defense. The Taiwan Strait is one of the most heavily defended areas in the world. Taiwan's military doctrine calls for destroying runaways and airports as soon as conflict begins, leaving no place to drop the vehicles. Even if the vehicles are dropped, Taiwan is equipped with portable air defense missiles and low-altitude anti-helicopter systems. These vehicles won't land, they'll be buried. Also, Taiwan's rapid response forces can arrive in just 10 to 20 minutes, quickly surrounding airborne troops. By the time China's forces have even gathered, the enemy will already be closing in. This isn't an airborne assault, it's a live broadcast of encirclement. For the technicians in the lab, this still may provide some data and reports, but for the soldiers on the front lines, these vehicles won't be of much use. If they're ever deployed on the battlefield, the results might not be an enhanced combat capability, but rather increased losses. Number 2. 3 failed airborne scenarios. Let's break down the 3 possible outcomes of an airborne operation, assuming a few basic conditions. The Chinese military can't fully control the air over the Taiwan Strait. Taiwan's short-range air defense systems and anti-drone equipment are always ready to fire. Taiwan can destroy its own critical airports and ports multiple times. Taiwan's rapid response forces are real, and they can arrive on the scene in just 10 to 20 minutes, quickly surrounding Chinese forces. Now let's assume the Chinese military carries out a standard airborne package, multiple transport planes flying in, dropping equipment and soldiers, who then quickly assemble and prepare for an assault. Scenario 1. Seizing an airport. An hour and a half before the flight starts, Chinese transport planes are already detected by radar, satellites, and open flight information. An hour before the battle, Taiwan's military notices irregular flight paths and activates its air defense systems. Half an hour later, the target airport's runway is destroyed with a long-range explosion, and it can be destroyed again by the time Chinese forces arrive. When Chinese planes reach the airport ready to drop their cargo, they're flying low and slow with Taiwan's missiles, anti-aircraft guns, and drones waiting below. As the airborne operations begin, Chinese soldiers and equipment scatter, everything from parachute landing to untying straps and trying to assemble. Each move is exposed to Taiwan's forces. 10 minutes later, when the first batch of BMD-4M's vehicles attempt to capture the control tower and fuel depots, drones dive from the sky, hitting the vehicle's roof and destroying them. Chinese engineers try to repair the runway but are interrupted by a second round of explosions, destroying it again. 20 minutes later, Taiwan's rapid response forces arrive with infantry armored vehicles, mortars, and a swarm of suicide drones. They quickly surround the Chinese paratroopers. What's the outcome? Without reinforcements, the Chinese paratroopers quickly run out of ammunition. The ones who can escape do, and the rest are overwhelmed. The airport may have been briefly captured, but it couldn't be held. Scenario 2. Assaulting the port. 1 hour before the battle begins, Taiwan's maritime and air defense systems are on full alert. When Chinese paratroopers and armored vehicles land, they encounter the port, a maze of stacked containers, making it difficult for the vehicles to deploy. Within 20 minutes of landing, nearby oil tanks and cranes are either exploded or set on fire, turning them into passive weapons in a sea of flames. Meanwhile, coastal defense missiles force any approaching ships to turn back. 30 minutes after landing, Taiwan's small armored units, mortar teams, and drone squads have sealed off every access point to the port. What's the outcome? What seems like an assault quickly becomes a shooting gallery. With no reinforcements and no way to resupply, the unit loses combat capability within 3 hours. Scenario 3. Forced landing in the suburbs. Before the battle even starts, civilian cameras and commercial drones have already locked onto the landing zone. Chinese soldiers are scattered when they land, unable to connect with each other. The command structures hasn't been re-established and they're already targeted. Within 10 minutes of landing, Taiwan's rapid response units arrive using classic close the door and hit the dog tactics surrounding them from all sides. What's the outcome? The only thing the troops can do is create some news footage and cause a bit of chaos, but it won't change the course of the battle. And let's not forget, the planes transporting these paratroopers might not even reach the drop zone before being shot down by surface-to-air missiles. The final thought is, even if the BMD-4M's aluminium armor is enforced, iron bars are welded to the roof, and it's loaded with jamming equipment, it will only survive a little longer. It will never be able to hold the line. Number 3. Debunking the 6 paratrooper fantasies, the harsh reality of the battlefield. Though we've already laid out the scenarios clearly, there will always be those who try to justify this purchase, attempting to make sense of it. Let's break down these tactical fantasies and see how they hold up. Claim 1. It's fine, just add some extra protection and it will be able to withstand hits. This sounds reasonable, but it completely ignores basic physics. Airborne operations depend on keeping equipment light enough for transport planes to carry and parachutes to support. The BMD-4M uses lightweight aluminum alloy to reduce weight. Adding extra armor, defense systems, or cooling equipment makes the vehicle heavier. At some point, the planes can't carry it and the parachute won't support it. The drop becomes impossible. Claim 2. We have night vision and electronic warfare capabilities. We can launch nighttime raids and suppress air defenses. This is a one-sided perspective. Night vision may be available, but so is it for the enemy, and they may have more advanced systems. Signal jamming is possible, but so is counter jamming. The idea of obscuring the battlefield becomes increasingly difficult in a world filled with surveillance, military satellites, commercial satellites, ground sensors, mobile live streams, and consumer drones. Claim 3. FPV drones are vulnerable to jamming. We can just add a jammer. This sounds simple, but when a jammer is turned on, it also jams the communication and data links of the own team. This is essentially self-sabotage. The jammers on military vehicles are expensive, but Taiwanese FPV drones operators can simply swap out a few $100s worth of parts and add image recognition. The jamming efforts become ineffective. Claim 4. As long as we capture the airport, we can open a breakthrough. Unfortunately, capturing an airport doesn't guarantee victory. Taiwan's military's first lesson is denying access to the runway. One bombing isn't enough. They'll do it a second time or a third time. The moment a repair attempt is made, the runway is bombed again. Transport planes are forced to circle in the air while the runway remains inoperable, leaving paratroopers on the ground isolated and without support. Claim 5. Get the propaganda out first, seize a narrative, and influence a battle with publicity. While publicity can lead the charge, the reality of the battlefield will always catch up. The moment a claim is made, satellite images, live videos, and drone footage can quickly reveal the situation on the ground, under heavy fire, with vehicle destroyed and paratroopers surrounded. But this isn't an era when carefully staged images can shape perception. In today's world of real-time satellite imagery and live stream combat, any false narrative unravels almost immediately. Claim 6. This isn't about fighting, it's for research. We're going to dismantle, reverse engineer, and improve ourselves. This explanation holds some truth, but it only addresses part of the problem. It's possible to dismantle, test, and analyze a fire control and power system, but this only resolves the vehicle problem. The real issue with airborne operations lies outside the vehicle. How is air superiority gained? How can ground-based air defense be overcome? How are FPV drones dealt with? How are runways being destroyed or port blown up as soon as they are captured handled? These are not issues that can be solved by dismantling a vehicle. No amount of testing in a lab can replicate a battlefield environment. Ultimately, these claims are simply an attempt to avoid facing reality. Modern warfare isn't about sentiment, it's about data. It's not about courage, it's about systems. No matter how many fantasies are spun, they won't survive the dive of an FPV drone. Number 4, a table to understand the debate. To make it easier to understand this debate over airborne combat vehicles, let's look at the key data and terms involved. The number of BMD-4M vehicles China is purchasing from Russia represents a complete airborne battalion-size combat package. By February 2025, the confirmed losses of BMD-4Ms on the battlefield in Ukraine had reached at least 167 vehicles. The estimated total price of the contract is $584 million, which not only covers the vehicles but also includes specialized parachutes, training, and a full maintenance and support system. An airborne combat vehicle must be light enough to be airdropped, but heavy enough to withstand enemy fire and survive. If it's too light, it can be dropped easily but will shatter upon impact. If it's too heavy, it can take hits but can't be dropped at all. This is the airdrop paradox, a technical deadlock where tactical aspirations collide with the laws of physics. Once the vehicles are dropped, they are often surrounded by FPV drones, handheld missiles, and anti-aircraft fire before they have a chance to even deploy. The vehicles become coffins, and the soldiers never engage in combat. This is what's known as arrival is DOA, dead on arrival. If an airport can't be used, every time an attempt is made to repair the runway, it's bombed again. Reinforcement units can't even land. This is what's referred to as runway denial. Taiwan has strategically placed dense, short-range air defense and anti-drone systems at key locations, including airports and ports. Once airborne forces parachutes in or fly in low, it's like flying straight into a firestorm. This is the close defense fire net. Taiwan's small size and quick response time allows its forces to surround airborne troops within 10 minutes of detection. While paratroopers are still on the ground untying parachutes, enemy forces, including infantry, armored vehicles, and mortar teams, are already moving in. This is referred to as the 10-20 minute counterattack circle. The Chinese military may dream of an easy airborne assault, but reality is much harsher. Number 5, not a shortcut to victory, but a strategic self-destruction trigger. In the end, this deal surrounding the BMD-4M doesn't seem to be a military strategy designed to enhance combat effectiveness. Instead, it appears to be a complex maneuver driven by internal processes, political considerations, and technological speculation. What it reveals are not hopes for future warfare, but several hard, undeniable truths. An outdated system can be purchased, but what's truly being wasted are taxpayers' dollars. The 37 vehicles listed in the contract are just the opening chapter of the story. The wreckage of at least 167 vehicles in Ukraine has already written the final chapter in blood. Reinforcing the aluminium armor with iron bars or adding jammers does not address the core issue. Modern warfare relies on real-time data and complete visibility. There are no hidden areas or safe zones. Even if a runway is briefly secured, as long as the enemy can carry out a second strike, those efforts will be ineffective. In an era dominated by drones, thermal imaging, and satellite live streaming, speed no longer ensures victory. Instead, it means being detected, targeted, and destroyed more quickly. Trying to replicate the events at Hostomel in the Taiwan Strait would lead to a strategy that fades quickly and fails even faster, ultimately resulting in a self-defeating approach.